Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Pele Yoetz, and today we're talking about fraud. And it states that fraud in business dealings carries the additional prohibition above and beyond stealing of "you shall not deal fraudulently." Due to ill practice, the prohibition of fraud has been forgotten by many common people. They do not know what fraud is and refer to it as normal effort and clever-mindedness. In truth, it is the cause of the world's deterioration and its cycle of poverty. This is the statement of the prophet in Eliyahu 17:11. A person who achieves wealth without justice will find that it abandons him in the middle of his life. The word of God in the mouth of the prophets is true. If we see a man who acts corruptly, yet his wealth is intact, it is certainly wealth which remains with its owner to his own detriment. In accord with the verse Devarim 7:10, and he pays his enemies to their face for the mitzvah of good deeds in order to destroy them. So again, like we spoke about this in a few previous chapters before, about the importance of dealing honestly with people, especially in business. And again, we've talked about how, these little quote unquote clever tactics to either generate new sales or to get a deal done. People, they don't see them for what they truly are. And that is either a fraud or deceit. It's like having uneven scales. That's the equivalent of it. And this is it's very, it's a very serious thing. And again, because our generation has come down so low and the Yetzirah is just really, the Yetzirah is very well versed on how to bamboozle people, to make them think that they are in desperate need, and the only way to get it is through doing these deceitful tactics. And again, when you behave in this way, you have to be careful, because you have to know that at some point in your life, it can be taken away from you, and most likely will be taken away from you. And you have to be careful because, I heard somebody once say that when somebody gets into prosperity in the end of their days, it's not a good sign, because it's like Hashem's paying you in this world for all the mitzvot that you did. So it's a very scary thing. We have to be so careful about this. And we also talked about the concept that when you are dealing deceitfully, you're creating a malach that in turn, measure for measure, comes back, and he also lies to you and further tells you, he gives you these convincing arguments as to why what you're doing is okay. So this is a very serious, very dangerous thing. I think all of us are just so susceptible to this kind of behavior, and we do it, and you don't even have to own a business. You have to be so careful. Something that for sure is a process to get to. So it says, this is the general rule of fraud. It is not permissible to lie or to promote one's merchandise for some value that it does not possess. To say that he bought it for a certain amount or that he was already paid a specific price when that is not true. It is unnecessary to mention that one is not allowed to falsely beautify merchandise or to mix bad and good stock in order that it should look more appealing to the eye, such that the leprosy lies beneath the surface, or to show one thing and deliver another. Needless to say, if a man acts fraudulently in matters of weight, volume, measure, he is called corrupt, despised, despicable, loathsome, and an abomination. The punishment for false weights and measures is greater than that for the illicit relations in Yevamot 21a. His endeavor will certainly not succeed, and his end will be disgrace and appalling in this world, besides the punishment that awaits him in Olam Haba. In conclusion, a person who acts in this way is a fool, for he toils for naught and consumes his strength and his days in futility, only to acquire a bad deal for himself in Gehinnom. So I got to tell you, we would think that, we wouldn't be on the receiving end of this, kind of behavior. But I'm not even talking about used car salesman is like the number one example that people use about this kind of behavior. But I got to tell you, I want to say maybe 7-8 years ago, something like that. We knew somebody who was in the bakery business, and he was talking about what some of the other local bakeries are doing. So sometimes they make, bakeries, and they have these contracts, and they deliver bread to stores. And part of the contract is whatever is not sold, they take back, And so what they end up doing is they take that bread right before it goes bad and they remix it. They like break it down and remix it again with new flour. And so you're essentially getting like really old bread, like, but you don't know it. And this is an example. It's a classic example that many people get bamboozled over. They don't even know. So, it can happen in all areas. It's not something that is just, a thing of the past, or so long as you're not buying a used car or, maybe electronics. I mean, this can happen in your day to day. So, very serious problem. And again, I think these bakers think that perhaps they're getting one over on us, but Hashem is the true record keeper. And of course, he's keeping the score. So it says, and at the beginning of man's final judgment, he asks in Shabbat 31a, he is asked, did you conduct your business with integrity? And the person who trusts in Hashem and conducted his business with integrity will be surrounded with kindness of God, and his bracha will bring him wealth. He certainly will not be lacking for bread. It's so funny that I made the example of bread, and here they are, and they're stating it. So it says, and his provision will be attained in permissible, satisfying, profitable, and an honorable manner. Fortunate is he in this world, and good will be his lot in Olam Haba. In truth, the desire for money blinds those who can see and make a person allow himself illegitimate privileges. So it says, about such people, the sages say in Gemara, Eruvin 65b, a man is recognized by his wallet. A person must galvanize his intelligence to conquer his greed, and he must make an absolute resolve that in order to avoid being a wicked person before God, he would risk dying of hunger. This is our obligation, and this is what is proper for us, especially since, in total truth, those who seek God will not be lacking any good. Remember, this is a question of emunah. Remember, everything's coming from Hashem. So whatever you're allowed it to make in business, it's coming from Hashem. If you try to make more, if Hashem says you're getting 50 grand this year in business and you say, I'm going to make 100 grand, you're going to take 50 grand in losses. So be careful. I mean, everything always evens out. Somehow, some way, it's going to even out. So it says the person who walks wholeheartedly with God will walk with security. This is a great general principle for all things that a man should desire and covets, especially for money, which is adored by him. And there's an evil inclination which shows his 49 ways to purify the impure creature. Therefore, the man who fears God should uphold the rule of do not rely on your own understanding, Mishlei 3:5. He must go on to a Torah scholar who will teach him the upright path, and he may not stray from the path into which he has been instructed either to the right or to the left. So again, the importance of having a Rav. A lot of times they help to keep us in line. I mean, they're like the shepherds, really. And sometimes sheep, they look off, their attention is somewhere else and they wander off. It's the job of the shepherd to help keep us in line. So it says, there is also a concept of harmful words, which is more severe than monetary fraud. Our sages commit in Baba Metzia 59a that all the gates of Shemaim have been locked except for the gate of someone who has been hurt by harmful words. This is so much more easier to transgress, right? So much more easier because you don't have to own a business to transgress this. So it says God himself exacts powerful attribution. Did you listen to that? God himself exacts powerful retribution. In this too, many people have stumbled because they do not know the definition of a harmful speech. The basic rule is that anyone who hurts his friend with words violates the prohibition of harmful speech. In order to know that what words his friend finds painful, he should constantly fulfill the dictum of our sages who said in Shabbat 31a, that which is despised to you, do not do to others. So the basic, fail-safe rule is that if you wouldn't like what you're about to say, don't say it to someone else. So you have to be so careful. You have to be so tact. You have to have a lot of kuth in the way you're saying things. And if you're like me, this is something that you have to have a study in. Again, I had posted the Ramban's letter that also talks about this, about, if you have anger, what's the proper way to speak to somebody. It was a beautiful letter. It's not even that long. It was a great letter. But also, aside from that, everyone, I hope, famously knows the Chafetz Chaim is just a great, he was a great, we were talking about, halachot compendiums yesterday, and he for sure, right? He composed one of the greatest compendiums, and that of Lashon Hara. So worthwhile to have a study of that. And remember, everything that we learn, we're moving the lips of the sages. And you create an advocate for yourself in Shemaim. So go out there, make those advocates. You have no idea. It's like making investments, and they have dividends, right? They just keep paying. So learn how to invest your time in the mitzvot. It's a great thing if you do it well. I pray that you will have a good place in the Olam Haba. So it says, many common people conduct themselves in a foolish way. They hurt their friends in a joking or teasing way in order to increase wanton merriment. And behold, this is like a mocker who shoots fiery arrows. He will surely be punished in such a way that his merriment will be transformed into wretchedness. To the degree that a matter is hazardous, one needs to be very vigilant. A person is likely to be sensitive, insulted, and hurt by even casual conversation about him. And yet he does not feel the pain of his friend. He thinks, so what if I hurt him for the wrong that he committed against me? The law permits me to hurt him. If this is in jest, if it's in jest, then there is no pain. In other words, like we all know, I'm sure we've all encountered somebody, right, that they say things, and they say it under the guise of a joke. But for everyone else, it's like there's 10% of truth of it and 90% humor. But for you, it's like it was 90% truth and it was like 10% humor. Because it's almost like a backhanded compliment, that famous, idiom that there's just a backhanded compliment. And a lot of times I think a lot of people, perhaps they don't know how to confront people properly. And so they do this passive aggressiveness that I think they feel is okay, because they, for some reason, were hurt by you. And perhaps you didn't realize it. And instead of just coming to you and telling you, and having a conversation, because again, they just may not have the tools to do it properly. So they disguise it as a joke, hoping that you'll get the hint, but you have to be careful with that too, because that's, it's all very tricky. It is all very tricky. And this is why a study in the Chafetz Chaim is just such a great thing to invest in, because speaking is something that we all have to do. And if you have to do it, you might as well do it in the right way. And again, just because you know how to talk doesn't mean you're doing it the right way. So it's something I can attest. I'll be the first one to put my hand up. It's something that I still have to continuously learn how to do. So it states on, it says, such is the erroneous thinking of people, and the hilarity, I said, is praiseworthy. No man regrets his misdeeds because he does not consider it a wrongdoing. However, it is fitting to know that it was not permitted to hurt any person with words, even someone who hurt him, unless it is an open admonition motivated by love. But if he does it in order to exact vengeance, he violates the Torah prohibition of not taking revenge in Vayikra 19:18. Certainly, when the Torah in Vayikra 25:17 commanded that one should not harm his fellow with words, it did not need to mention a friend who seeks his benefit. So are we dealing with fools? But even if his friend hurt him, it is not permitted to repay him according to his wrongdoing. If it is a joking manner, nonetheless, he jokes around with the blood of his friend and is considered mockery, about which the sages said in Avodah Zarah 18b, the beginning of its retribution is suffering and the end is total destruction. Therefore, a person must be cautious in regards to harmful speech, especially in regards to one's wife. Since her tears are near, so too is the punishment for her pain. In Baba Metzia 59, it's quoted, a person must constantly strive that the attitude of people always be favorable towards him. By doing so, the attitude of God will be favorable towards him as well. So now, if you followed Adorn with Dignity, I talked about the awesome privilege given to women, and I kind of touched on this. But as many people know, when it comes to the gateway of tears, that gate is always open, right? Every other gate is closed. That gate is open. But when it comes to the tears of women, again, I brought this up in Adorn with Dignity, because of that it's a close dichotomy of the relationship between Hashem and the women. I'm telling you, if you're a man, you don't want to joke about somebody's wife or another woman. If you're another woman, Don't think that because you're a woman that it's okay to go against another woman as well. Not okay. And Hashem will bring retribution himself. Habibi, we don't even want to get into that. We really don't want to get into that. It's a very serious thing. And I think in this day and age, again, because we're on such a low level, we're not educated as we were like our forefathers were in the days of old. And there's a lot of Derek Eretz missing from our day-to-day relationship with people. And so we don't realize the severity of when you're mocking someone else, let alone another woman. So very serious thing to contemplate. And really what Harav Papo Alav Shalom is kind of giving us advice that even if you've been hurt, it is kind of better for you to take the high road on this and just give it to Hashem. Because Hashem is already your vindicator. So he's going to go out and do what he has to do. He's the great equalizer. But Lolino, you should not even wish that should be. I always say that only speak good of Hashem's children to Hashem. Only speak good. This world is almost over. It's almost over. Let us just make that extra effort to come closer to do that which brings Hashem nachas. And I pray that we would be so careful with our words in the kavod of our friend, who really is our brother and sister. So we can't be so flippant about the things that we say. You have to be careful. It's so easy to transgress, but the consequences are catastrophic. So that's it for today, and I hope we'll all be together again soon. B'ezrat Hashem.